Hello, everybody. We've just gotten done with our Parched for the Parsha meeting this night on, what is the date today?
Oh, I think it's the 26th.
The
26th.
26th of 2022, right? Just kidding. In any case, we were looking at the
This
Parsha
month is June. I don't know what he's talking about.
about Korah. So I'm going to review the story very briefly, and then we'll just talk about it a little bit. So in this section, what happens is Korah, whom we learned from David last year with his preaching, was a man who was legitimately of a line. He should have been a leader, or maybe the next in line for leadership if anything had happened to Moshe or Aharon. So he grasped a little bit soon, though. They were still there, and he came together with some of his leaders and his appointed men, and they basically tried to stage a little coup. But what
But what do
happened?
you have against Aaron?
Right. So what happened, though, was not at all as they had desired. Instead of them being raised up and exalted in front of the community, God humbled them. Not only humbled them, but lowered them even into Sheol alive. Our second portion that we had to look at, what happens in that one, Jenny?
The Haftarah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they have just crowned Saul king at Gilgal, and Samuel, they call it his last speech, and he says, have I taken anybody's donkey? Did I take any bribes? Do you guys find any fault with me? Is there anything in my hand that belongs to you? And the people say, no, God is our witness. This new king is our witness.
And the last story that we had was from the New Testament, and it was the story of Ananias and Sapphira. And apparently this couple sold some land. They were members of our first century, first established church, and they sold a piece of land, and then they came to the congregation and they said, here, we're giving all of the money from our land because we're such nice people. But they lied, and they got caught. They didn't have to get caught by Peter or anyone there because, as Peter points out, they weren't trying to lie to men, but to God, and they died.
They both dropped dead.
And they both dropped.
God loves a cheerful giver. Give him all you've got.
Jenny learns really, really scary songs when she was in her childhood. They do not necessarily have a good and positive and helpful and theologically orthodox meaning, but they are memorable.
Actually, that one I forgot. I only remember a few snippets of that song, although there are many, 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 many doctrinally beneficial songs that I remember from my childhood. I forgot that one.
That's true. Demonstrated to me many, many times the blessings of her background. But what then are the unifying factors that you see in these three story portions, Jenny?
Are you asking me what we learned? Oh, what ties them all together?
Yeah. And what did we learn? Take it where you want.
Okay. Well, I do want to say from the Torah portion that my favorite part of the story of Korah is that it was one rebellion stacked on top of another, and people are dying, and at the end, the people are saying, let's just get away from this tabernacle. We're all going to die. Every time we come near God, we die. And God says, okay, let's clear this up. I'm going to show you some almonds. This time, it's just going to be flowers. No one's going to die. And he set some ground rules, like the priests in this little box, the Levites are going to be in the bigger box, and the people are going to be all around that. And if you guys follow these rules, no one else will die. And
what do you think of that?
I think that we have a compassionate God, and like David says, if you get too close to holiness, you're going to die. But I think he didn't want them to die, and so he gave them an order of operation so that they could live in his presence, live in his camp, and not die. And that was one of the things that Samuel said to the people when, in his ending address, his last speech. He said, okay, I don't think you should have asked for this king, but God gave you a king anyway. But just so you know, if you think just because you have a king, now you're going to win the battles, you're still going to die. It's not the king who saves you in battle, it's God who saves you in battle. Right. So if you obey him and follow hard after your God, you're going to be successful in battle. But otherwise, you're going to die. And Ananias and Sapphira.
Yeah. What did you get in that one?
Well, you know what? I'm still marked by that song. I just remember the part they tried to.
Marked, she means like scarred or branded.
Yeah, because the song told me that they tried to cheat the church and they dropped dead. Now I know that the story is more nuanced than that, but it's still. I mean, there is an element. I mean, our God is feared and mighty, and our worship to him should be ordered and acceptable. And I mean, I like to think that I just run up to my daddy, even when he's holding court in his throne room, and climb onto his lap. But
and you do, but you do so with the recognition that he is a great and mighty king, and terrible to behold.
Yeah. Safe? Is he safe? No, but he's good.
No, but he's good. The things that I saw in these stories are a little bit different. I see in Korah, I see a fellow who he has, if you will, a place to sit in the gate, right? He's a powerful man and an important man of the right lineage and the right family and the right clan and the right birth order, right? But it's not enough for him. He wants more. He wants more recognition. He wants more power. And he gathers together a group behind him who are like-minded, and they try to step up against Moses and Aaron, and Moses calls him on it in just very clear terms. He's like, what is the matter with you? Isn't it enough? Isn't it enough that you have been called out, that you Levites, you've been called out and set aside, even apart and special within this congregation that belongs to God? And now you want the priesthood too? What's going on here? And then, so they're grasping above what has been given to them. They're seeking their own. They're seeking power. They're seeking to be persons who look good and are looked up to, right? Look at our middle story, the Haftarah. It's kind of a counterpoint to this. It's not so much that the people are looking to their own power, but they're failing to trust God. It's a lack of trust, right? They cannot believe that God will take care of them if it doesn't look for them like it looks for the other nations around them. All of the other nations have a king, and they're kicking our fannies. That's why they have the right power structure. And so they reject the Holy One and instead turn back and say, no, we want a man to lead us. And God does indeed give them a king, but with a lot of warnings and saying, that this isn't the way it was intended to be. And you're going to pay a price for it. You're really going to be sorry for this choice. Then with Sapphira and Ananias, they did a good thing. These were people who, I guess in the sense that it could be true for folks in their place and time, they also would have had a voice in the gate. They were wealthy. They owned land. They were generous. They were willing to give of what they had. They were willing to share with others. They should have been recognized for what they did, and I think they would have been, absolutely. But instead of accepting the true reward from the actual service that they did, they wanted more. They wanted the respect and the honor shown to a level of service and sacrifice that was beyond what they were willing to give. And they lied to get it. They lied and cheated, and they died. So, for me, that is where these stories tie together. Moses is, Jenny and I joke about it sometimes, but it says Moses was the most humble man who ever lived, and yet we say that Moses wrote this. So, okay, maybe an editor got to that last bit. That was a redactor. And he was inspired. He was accurate. But maybe that's what's called for. Moses was a great man, and he did do great things. But what do you see him doing for his service? Mostly falling on his face before God, begging for the lives of those around him. He was ready to sacrifice whatever he had and whatever he could to save the people around him.
Hey, remember, Aaron did the same thing.
And Aaron did the same thing.
And the plague broke out, and Moses said, "Quick, get your censer and run." And Aaron ran into the midst of the people and stood between the living and the dead.
Until the plague, probably around 90 or better.
Until the plague stopped. Aaron, whose sons had shortly before died by offering fire the wrong way to God.
Right.
Quick, go grab some coals. Quick, you want me to do this quick? And he did.
So anyway, these are our models. These are the heroes of the faith. These are the great cloud of witnesses. And these are our exemplars of how to live. And Jesus says it again. Let he who would be first be servant of all. Thank you all. We love you all.